on their own time. So we'll begin this workshop now. Hi everyone, I am Kushi and I will be hosting this workshop for you along with my co-host Tanisha. I'll just give the stage to her and let her introduce herself.
Hi everybody, my name is Tanisha and like she said, I am co-hosting this workshop today with her. I just wanted to run everybody by some ground rules. So, right. So of course, please keep your cameras and microphones off during the session. Only unmute yourself when requested or raise your hand to speak. We encourage everyone to maintain decorum and show respect to others. As the workshop is a copyrighted property of MindTribe, we request that you avoid taking recordings or screenshots of the presentations. Please note that the session will be recorded, but only the PPT and the audio will be captured and not the chats or videos. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanisha. Let's begin with our workshop. And before that, I'll just introduce myself. So, hi everyone. My name is Khushi Jain, and I work at MindTribe as a counselor. And well, I can say that my entire aim for this workshop right now is to help all of us understand what we're going through, what kind of impact the media has on us, and how we can get through it. Because there's a lot of wars, there are a lot of problems going on a lot of levels, national, global, and a lot of times personal as well. So I really hope that by the end of this workshop, we'll be able to get some resolution and we'll find out some ways to get over from our problems. Thank you so much for being a part of this. All right. So this workshop discusses some sensitive topics. If at any point you feel triggered, please feel free to step away. Take care of your well-being first. If you do not wish to step away, you can always contact our co-host or mention something in the chat box. We'll be there to take care of you at that moment itself. Thank you. All right. Now let's do a quick feeling check-in. I request everybody to bring out your keypads, to have your emojis ready, and let's do the check-in. So think about how you usually feel after watching or reading negative news. And I want all of you to use emojis to be able to express that. So let's go onto the chat box and try to do that. Okay, I saw a thumbs down here. What else? Generally, we feel a lot of things when we're reading or when we come across something negative. Yes, we kind of feel a little shocked that how is this something like this happening around us? What else? Come on, guys, let's see. We feel sad. Exactly, we feel a lot sad. We feel curious. That's a great one. Exactly, we feel frustrated and angry. That's one of the very common feelings. All right, all right. So basically, what we'll be learning in this workshop is why do we feel this way? What kind of role does the media play here? And how are we to take the control back in our hands? Okay, so the contents is kind of very simple. Although it'll be a little psychoeducative, you'll get to know a lot of things about media, you'll get to know a lot of things about how it works. So if you have any questions in between, you can raise your hand or you can put that question down in the chat box. So we'll learn about media effects and its impacts. We'll learn about our biases. Now this is a very interesting topic. I really request all of you to stay till then. It's my personal favorite. Then we'll learn about coping with negative emotions. How do we do that? And we'll try to do a grounding technique as well. Okay. So Douglas Adam is an English author, and he wrote this line. When I found it, it felt quite resonative to what we're going to be talking here. That is, nothing travels faster than light, with the possible exception of bad news, which follows its own rules. Basically, we're saying that bad news doesn't even follow physics rules. But yes, okay. So why does media have such an impact on us? Why do we feel these kinds of emotions when we read a news? So, a phenomenon of that is called as media effect. So, media effects refer to how media content, now this can be news, any kind of TV show, our social media, where we actually get our news nowadays a lot more than general news channels, shapes our emotions, our attitudes, and even to an extent, our behaviors. For example, think about how watching a heartwarming story can uplift you, while constant negative headlines might leave you feeling a lot more drained. Now, this contrast, it happens because of this phenomenon called as media effect. Now, let's understand how does this happen as well. So, when we first exposed to media, it impacts us in different ways. Now, what are these ways? First, it shapes our opinions. Second, it impacts our decision makings. Third, it reinforces a lot of stereotypes. And fourth, it alters our social norms. The more we're exposed to something, the more we tend to believe in it, and the more it feels like our norms are being changed accordingly. Now, media effect can be both positive and negative, affecting everything from beliefs to emotional well being, depending on the content and how it's consumed. But how does it do that? Question comes in again. The answer is many ways, by the way. And the first one, which is also called as a domino effect, is called as priming. I apologize. Somebody's mic is on. Could you please mute yourself? Thank you so much for that. All right. So we're talking about priming here. What is priming? Imagine that you're watching a movie about space exploration. Maybe something like Interstellar. And suddenly you're scrolling through your feed, and an article about a NASA mission catches your eye. Now, without even realizing it, your mind is primed. That is, it. Yes, that is the idea that was planted in your head uh, because of the movie. Uh, it gets primed, and you read the article. You try to know more about that idea because that idea got primed in your head. So, what is priming? It's basically recalling old ideas, knowledge, or experiences which later on leads to an unconscious reaction or emotion. Quite simple. The next one is gatekeeping. What is gatekeeping? So, this one is actually quite interesting because it's something that we don't always notice. So, imagine a giant vault, like a giant box filled with hundreds of stories. Some about important issues like climate change, others about celebrity gossips. Now, who decides which stories get the spotlight? Obviously, the media editors and producers. Now, these are the people who are gatekeeping certain information. They control what gets through to the public eye. So, we, the information that we get, or the information that we think that we're getting, the editors have a lot of power over that information. So basically, gatekeeping is which stories to tell that equates to what are we thinking about it. Third is framing. Framing is basically how the story is told. So there is a specific way in which any kind of news is presented, which often ends up shaping our opinion about it. Who is right, who is wrong. And What is framing exactly? How the story is told. So think of media as like a storyteller holding a camera. The angle they choose can completely change how we perceive what's happening. So let's take an example as well. Imagine there's a protest happening. If the headline reads, protesters demand justice, it might make you feel like you want to support that cause. You want to support people who want justice, right? But if the same event is framed as angry mob disrupts city, it creates a completely different impression. The facts haven't changed, but the frame, the way that it was framed, shaped your opinion. You get angry at what the power of framing is. Now, the last one is cultivation. Cultivation is quite simple actually. Uh, a question for all of you. How many of you have watched Crime Patrol? You can give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Yes, yes. So we watched an entire series that talks about crime. Now, after we watched that series, what does it make you feel? You know, do you end up thinking that, oh wow, this world is such a dangerous place. Oh my God, there are people around us who are probably going to hurt us, or something like that. Do you possibly end up thinking that? Like it's a thumbs up, thumbs down. You guys can respond with that. Yes. So exactly, sometimes. So that is what cultivation in action is. When we're repeatedly exposed to certain themes in the media, like, say, crime or violence or even idealized romance, it gradually shapes how we see the world. Even if the real world isn't as dangerous and dramatic as these shows suggest, our brain starts treating this fiction as a fact. And the way media plays this into our subconscious is an actual example of how much we believe is dependent on our media or the kind of media that we assume consume. Sorry. All right. So an example of that, one of the biggest ones actually, is COVID-19. I think all of us have been through this, and there was a lot of misinformation that was coming out about COVID-19 when we were in the pandemic. So there were a lot of vaccines at that time when we were searching for vaccines that were linked to autism or severe health risks. So people were basically saying, or at least the media was starting to show, that the COVID-19 vaccines could lead to severe conditions like autism or even measles. And all of these kinds of news started spreading a lot more through Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And when these kind of news started spreading around, first this is a misinformation that was spreading around, but when they started to go around, it basically created a lot of fear and skepticism in people about those vaccines. Now, what is the consequence of that? Very naturally, people thought that this vaccine is doing us more harm than good. So they stopped taking the vaccine. And unfortunately, because of that, there were areas where the deaths due to COVID 19 increased because people denied taking the vaccine. So we're talking about the kind of impact a small news, which can become a misinformation as well, has an impact on us to an extent which can cause an increased death rates as well in people. Okay, a question for all of you. Can you name? We talked about this before as well, but I want you guys to think about the names. Think about what kind of feeling you're feeling. Think about the emotion that you're feeling, and write those down in the chat box when you're watching a negative news. Somebody already did mention frustrated and angry. I really request others to write as well. Great, yes, annoyed. That's a very right one. What else? Yes, angry, sad, feeling helpless. Yes, that is a very important one. We tend to feel a lot helpless in these kinds of situations. Shocked, yes. Anxious, very well, yes. Confused, yes. Yes, angry, sad, anxious, and stressed as well, very well. We do feel a lot stressed about the condition of the world that's going around us. All right, let's move on to the next question. How do these emotions tend to impact you in your day? It's a multiple choice, so you can answer accordingly. A, if they lead to stress and make it hard to focus on tasks. B, they cause me to feel withdrawn or disconnected from others. C, they make me feel tired or drained throughout the day. Or D, they don't have much of an impact on my day. B, yeah, okay, right. So they make you feel withdrawn as well, as Ritika says. Saku said that they don't have much of an impact. It juggles between C and D, mainly depending on the intensity of the negative news. That's very true. That makes complete sense. Yes. What about others? What kind of impact do these kind of news have on you? They make you feel drained. Yes. All right. So right now we just learned about, how does media impact us. Now let's try to figure out why does this impact is so strong. Okay. So that is where we start with exploring our biases. Now, there are three major types of biases, and we'll go through them one by one. The first bias is the negativity bias. So, sorry about that. Yes, the negativity bias, meaning that we can't turn negative news off. Now, our brain has this tendency to be negatively biased. It has that because it wants to protect us from dangers. It wants to think about the negative so that we can then protect ourselves from any kind of danger that we see ourselves in. It's a very evolutionary concept, nothing bad. However, when we put that concept in our reality right now, it's causing us more harm. So our brain have like become like a velcro for bad news. So it starts taking on all kind of negative news. As soon as we see it, it captures our attention and we read about it. We think about it. So think about this. Take it that way. How many of us doom scroll? We go on Instagram and we just scroll a little, or we go on Facebook, we scroll a little, or even though we go into some, I would say, news sites as well and scroll. Yes, we do. We tend to do that, right? So when we find ourselves endlessly scrolling through, multiple types of news, our brain makes us focus on the negative news more. Even if there will be positive news, somewhere or the other filtering in your feed, but still, our brain will zoom in on the negative news. Again, it's not your fault. It's biology. Why does it happen? Negative information feels more urgent because, again, from an evolutionary perspective, it helped us survive. Knowing about dangers keeps us safe. But right now, in this situation, it's making us feel more, I would say, unsafe than safe, right? So that is one of the biases. Second one is availability bias. Now, availability bias is Basically, that after we see the negativity, we overestimate its significance. Okay, how many of you think that traveling in planes is dangerous? They tend to have lots of accidents. We've heard about plane crashes. We've heard about planes getting lost, never coming back. We've heard about so many problems in those, so many complications happening, right? So, if in case you've seen a lot of reports about plane crashes in the news, you may start to think that flying is far riskier than it actually is. But if you think statistically, driving a car is more dangerous. So there is more percentage of accidents in a car than accidents by a plane. So why do we think that plane crashes are more common? Because of our availability bias. As soon as the news came on, we started collecting it in our brain. And then whenever we tend to think about that situation, our brain just gives it back to us that, listen, see, you're thinking about traveling through a plane. Remember that accident which happened? Remember that plane crash? Or remember when the oxygen went off? So many kinds of news just comes filtering through our brain, and we forget that most of the times we've landed very safely. Okay. Now, the next one is confirmation bias, which is that we will find evidence to support this negativity. So basically, this is our brain's tendency to seek out the information that supports what we already believe while ignoring the evidence that contradicts it. Now, a very simple example of this, and quite funny as well, when we believe or when we are judging somebody for them not being a good person, how many times has it happened that even if they're doing something good, we tend to nitpick their negative things. Probably they're helping somebody, and you'll go like, ah, no, they might be just doing for show or something. Has it ever happened with you guys? Because I can say it has happened with me. A thumbs up, thumbs down would work. Right. So these are the ways in which uh, or why we get impacted by the news around us. We have a negative news, we focus on it, we overestimate its significance, and then we find the evidence that it is true. It is more true than what the fact says. And we've talked about how this is shaping our thoughts and perceptions. But unfortunately, it doesn't stop there. Did you know that negative media actually impacts our body as well? Like in a lot more ways than we think it does. Right, exactly. So let's just do a quick check of why does it do so or how does it do so, right? All right. So just give me a thumbs up, thumbs down again, people. Do you guys know about fight or flight? Great. Thank you. All right. I'll explain as well. So, Saku, you mentioned that you don't know, right? So, have you ever felt that your heart is racing or your muscles tense when you're in like a dangerous situation? Probably you have to go on the stage to deliver something. You feel your stomach also tensing. It just feels everything is going in a very rushed manner around you. That state of your body is your fight or flight response kicking in. Now, in a much dangerous situation, which is imagine you're going for a hike and you see a bear. Well, bears are dangerous, right? So your brain signals danger, your heart races, your breathing quickens, and your muscles prepare to fight or run. Naturally, we can't fight a bear, so we run. So instead of fighting, we are flighting. Now, this fight or flight mechanism is actually meant for real threats, like you're going out and a predator comes to hunt you, or you see a tiger, or you see a snake, something which can probably hurt you. However, unfortunately, our brain reacts the same way to bad news as well. So, whether it's a disaster or a violent clip, your body can't tell the difference. It acts like you're in danger. So, because of that, so what is it happening first of all? Watching the negative news impacts not just our thoughts but also gets our body buzzing. It's triggering what? A flight or flight response, making us feel like we're kind of gearing up for an adventure, the negative kind of adventure. And so instead of just thinking about it, our bodies get fired up to react to it. But there is nothing to react to, right? The news or the event which is happening, it's not in front of us that we can probably confront it or, I don't know, resolve it. And whenever something like this happens, we stay in a stress mode. That reaction or that fight or flight doesn't go away from our body, it stays like that. And over time, this can turn into chronic stress and then probably lead to trouble sleeping, anxiety, as you guys mentioned as well. When you're reading negative news, you feel anxious. Or in some very severe cases, physical health issues as well, like high blood pressure. So it all starts in the mind with the news you consume, but quickly becomes a whole body experience for us. All right. Let's do a quick discussion as well here. Has there been any recent news that has left a very lasting emotional impact on you? And I would love it if anybody would like to share something like that. You can raise your hand, you can use thumbs up, you can write down in the chat box. The Calcutta doctor incident. Uh, Varsha, I'm being very honest, that incident was one of the major reasons why this workshop has come to life. Because the way that it has impacted us on such a strong level, I completely understand you. How about others? Something, anything you guys would like to share? Yes, yes, exactly, Varsha. It definitely, if you think about it, gives you chills till now. Yes, Saku, you want to share something? You raised your hand. It's okay. You can type it down as well if you wish to not speak out loud. All right. Let's move on to the next part then. Quite simple. Another multiple choice question. Do you have a way to cope with these emotions? Just a moment. Yes, exactly. There were a lot of other incidents which came out to light, or we started thinking about them more after the Calcutta incident. I mean, quite naturally, I think we all know about the Nirbhaya case, right? After the incident of Calcutta, we were reminded of these past incidents as well to a very strong level. So it's not just about the future or the current news. We get reminded of the past news as well, which have probably made us feel like more in danger. Watching the aftermath of the war in Palestine, exactly. That is a war going on a very global level. And us sitting here in India, in our homes, probably can't do much or anything at all to save people, right? And it makes us feel like we're helpless in that situation. So we'll learn how to deal with these situations as well right after this. But right now, a question for all of you. Do you guys have a way to cope with emotions from negative news? A, yes, you do have something. B, you just try to distract yourself but don't have any specific coping strategy. C, you avoid the news to prevent feeling overwhelmed. And D, you don't struggle to cope with these emotions. We can type it down in the chat box. Okay. Yes. Oh, that's nice. Neha, would you like to share something? Anything that you use to cope with the kind of this kind of news or something negative? Saku, why don't you also share? You guys can write it down or raise your hand and we can talk as well.
My technique is whenever I see some negative news and
Yeah.
I feel like I
Uh-huh.
need to distract myself because I really feel like many emotions, many negative emotions. So what I do,
Uh-huh.
I start playing some games in which I have to
Okay.
focus on that game, like Sudoku
Okay.
or
Right.
some video games or
Right.
I just do deep breathing and sometimes like go for a walk and run full in a full speed. So I get tired, you know. So I will like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm tired now. I don't feel anything, and I get mentally
Right.
exhausted there.
Hmm.
So that's my technique.
Okay, that's you've done a great job. You distract yourself in a very good ways as well. You try to put that energy that's coming from your emotions in something productive. Either you're running or you playing some games which actually make your brain work, right? That's a good
Yes,
one.
and sometimes I also like when I feel like a strong emotion, like angry and something like that, that. So I just put my all forces and punch somewhere where I can't hurt my
Okay.
hand and something, but I just punch
Right.
it so that I will not harm myself and just
Yeah.
remove my emotion from myself.
Right, okay. So it's getting that energy out which is important for you. I completely understand. Neha, you mentioned that you practice journaling on a daily basis. That is a very, very great thing that you do, and I love that. Other social support plays a great part. That's very true. Social support does play a very important role in this because when we're watching these kinds of news, it makes us feel very alone. It makes us feel like we can't do something about it. And as soon as we find people around us who have either watched it and they support you in that, or they are also in the same boat, they also feel the similar way, you feel supported in that. So definitely, social support plays a very important role here. Okay, it was great knowing your answers. Now let's move ahead. Basically, the reason why I wanted to ask you these questions was so that we're setting a base on understanding how to actually cope with these kinds of news, right? So, yes, all right, let's move ahead. Okay, so just like on YouTube, we have a small ad break. In this time, if you feel like getting yourself a glass of water or something, you can go ahead. All right. So we'll talk about little bit about counseling here. Firstly, what is one-on-one counseling? So it's personalized, confidential chat between you and a trained therapist. Imagine having someone who really listens to you, who really understands you, and helps you figure things out. What are the benefits of this? Personal growth, you're solving your problems, you're setting some good goals for yourself, and at the end of it all, you're boosting your mental well being. It's like having a personal coach for your mind. And now let's talk a little bit about the kind of misconceptions that we have in counseling setup. Most important one being that it is only for those who are sick. That is not true at all. Counseling is for anyone who wants to be their best self. You want a better relationship, you want more friends, You want a spot in your dream college or job? Counseling can help you with all of that. It's all about making the best version of you. Now, just a small introduction to MindTribe. Why should you choose MindTribe? First, our counselors are super talented. I know it's very normal way to say it, but they kind of are. Plus, we're also affordable. So we have sessions ranging from 500 to 5,000. And guess what? Your first session is absolutely free. So you can also find your kind of counselor, you know. And once you're comfortable, you can choose from different kinds of packages as well. All right. So before we jump back into our main presentation, do you have any questions about counseling that you would like to ask? You can also drop it down or you can raise your hand. I'm here to answer as well as our co-host. If not, then you can give me a thumbs up and we'll go ahead. All right. Let's move ahead on to the most important part of our workshop, which is coping strategies. So, we've talked about how media affects our minds, our emotions, and even our bodies. But here's the good news, people, we're not powerless. With some very simple but effective strategies, we can build resilience and take control of how media is impacting us. So, I'm going to share 5 strategies with you guys, which will begin now. So, basically, the aim is building resilience and developing some healthier media habits as well, which plays a very important role. And the first one is setting boundaries. So think of your mental space as a garden. If you let weeds grow unchecked, like endless negative news, here the weeds is basically endless negative news, it becomes overwhelming for us. So we need to set a boundary and start pulling these weeds to decide what we allow into our garden. So there are 2 ways in which we can set our boundaries. First is imagine that you're scrolling through social media first thing in the morning. You see back-to-back posts. Well, uh, some incident has happened, and then as soon as you open your social media, you see back-to-back posts about it. So it can be anything. It can be a conflict, or it can be a disaster, it can be even a political drama, which tend to happen a lot nowadays. So by the time you finished your breakfast, your mood is already sad, and you're starting your day with stress. Now let's try to reframe this. So what if you set a rule for yourself? There is no news before 10 a.m. or after 8 p.m. What it does is that it helps you create space to start and end your day with calm instead of chaos. So in the morning, after 10 a.m., our work day starts, right? So we already have so much going on that we can probably read a news and still be able to digest it much better than it affecting us for the whole day. And after 8 p.m., it's basically our downtime. We are spending time with ourselves, or we're trying to go to bed, we're trying to create a schedule for that. So it's better that we don't focus on something so negative around that time period. So this is one of the ways that we set a boundary. Another way that we can do it is by limiting how much time we spend on these kinds of apps. If you're getting your news from, say, social media, so how much time are you spending on that app? If you're getting your news from any kind of other apps, or you're probably getting them from TV, any way that you're getting your information from, using that and understanding how much time that we are spending on that, and keeping a check of it. So the boundary here is to limit the amount of time that we're spending. Say if you're spending a lot of time in the beginning, we can cut it down by 30 minutes. For instance, if you're spending an hour on social media every single day, cutting it down by 30 minutes. See, I'll spend 30 minutes today on my on that app, and in that period of time, I'm using my complete brain and focus on that. So I'm getting my information, I'm scrolling as well. I'm using that time very effectively by just focusing on that. So you get informed and then we move on to other things. So you are still being updated, but you're not letting the news dominate your mind. One of the ways that we do that. Second is fact checking. Very important. So in the digital age that we are right now, misinformation spreads faster than ever. So this has happened a lot of times as well. We're talking about fake news. We're talking about something very serious as deep fake as well. Are we aware of deep fake? Just asking you people. Yes. So something as serious as that, and it's not real. It's not true. However, it still goes around. All right, I'll just explain what deepfake is. So this is the kind of basically it has been going around that people use somebody else's images or their faces and use AI to transform that into something very bad. Could be anything. Well, technically, this can be used in a good way as well, but people are using it for bad. So, for example, there was a video that came out about President Obama, which was not real, in which President, well, ex-president, former President Obama, in which he was talking about some very controversial thing and giving out a very strong opinion about that. When that video came out, it was like a whole I would say everybody was so enraged about it and nobody could actually believe that it was true, but then it spread far and wide. Everybody knew about it. It was a whole controversy, and to the extent that people or people of the administration they had to give out an official, I would say, official saying that it's not real, then that Obama has not actually said this and all. It's been misused. So to that extent, so fact checking has become something very important for us. Right. So yeah, so this has happened a lot of times that we read a shocking news and we share it because it's shocking and and we want other people to know it as well, right? And then later we find out that it's not actually true. So one of the ways that we can help reduce our stress over that news is to check what the news is about. So we're doing cross-checking. We are wherever you get the news from, you search it on Google as well. You go to different kinds of sites and different kinds of news channels which are talking about it and how much and what they're talking about. So you're basically verifying your news and reducing the amount of misinformation that we get from it. All right. The next one is selective engagement. Basically, choosing the kind of media. So intentionally, we basically need to choose intentionally what kind of media am I going to absorb today. If in case something very simple that we can do this by is we wake up in the morning and we check in with ourselves. We ask ourselves, how are we feeling today? You're feeling good, you're feeling happy, or you're feeling sad. It can vary, right? So the only thing that we're going to ask ourselves, and the reason why we're asking ourselves is because that will help us decide the kind of media we consume today. So if I'm happy and I just want to be informed, I can try to look at certain news from a very objective point of view. But if I'm not feeling well, then I should not go ahead and look at certain medias or any kind of news which is going around that is negative, that will make us feel more negative. So basically, choosing the kind of media which is going to impact us today. Because it is going to. We have to accept the reality that it is going to impact us some way or the other. So it's better we choose something that impacts us much better. Now, the next thing is emotional self compassion. Trying to assess your emotional state to help you recognize what is going on inside and also manage it. I'll be going a little more in detail of this in the next slide. So let's move ahead here. Now, something very important is self compassion. Please be kind to yourself. I'm talking about the same kind of kindness that you would show a friend. Uh, it's actually very okay to feel affected by negative news. I mean, at the end of the day, it means that you care. You care about the world. You care about what's going on in it. You care about you being a human and being participative in the world. But instead of being criticized or criticizing yourself for, I don't know, feeling overwhelmed, the best we can do is to take a moment and acknowledge your emotions. Because in most of the cases, we cannot do much about that news. We weren't able to do much about the Calcutta case, and I'm really sorry about that as well, because it impacted us a lot. We can't do much about the Palestinians, what's happening there. We can't do much about Ukraine. So the maximum that we can do right now is to tell yourself that I am doing the maximum that I can. Whether it is sharing certain news so that it goes to people who actually can help, or it is just trying to calm yourself down. Both of them are as important as doing anything else. So, how can we do this? Um, if you're watching a video which is making you feel bad, first of all, first and foremost thing is that you set a boundary right there and then. Then you pause and you check in with yourself. What do I need right now? Maybe it is stepping away from that. Maybe it is, journaling your feelings, or maybe it is just to check in with yourself and take a deep breath. So self compassion here is not about avoiding the hard things, but about supporting yourself through them. So there is one way you can do it. And another way is through positive self-talk. So for instance, if you're feeling overwhelmed by, the kind of world events which are happening around us, remind yourself, I am doing the best I can. It's okay to take a break, and this is just so I can come back to my best self and then help somebody else. All right? Something very simple. And each of these techniques that we have talked about here, they work together as well. So this is not just that we choose one and that is going to help us. The best way that we can help us, that's the best way that we can build our resilience, is by combining all of these together. So a question for you guys. Which of these strategies do you think would make a difference in your life right now? For instance, some people probably might be following fact checking, or they might be very selective about the kind of media they choose. So, right now in this moment, what do you guys think? What is more important for you? Two and three. All right. Are we talking about fact checking and selective engagement? I hope that one is yes. All right. Setting boundaries. That's a great one. What about others? Anything that you guys would like to share? Self compassion, yes, a very important way to deal with the stuff that's going around us. All right. Anybody else who would like to share something? You guys can raise your hand and share, or else chat box is always available to you. All right then. Let's move ahead. Let's quickly talk about the emotional check-ins that I was talking to you about. So basically, there are multiple emotional check-ins that we can use. What is an emotional check-in? To look within yourself and recognize, understanding what is going on, so that we can start working on it. Okay. Now, there are three major emotional check-ins that we are going to be talking about here. First is the halt one. Halt is what? Hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Basically, our physical state impacts our mental state, right? Impacts our emotions. So if you're hungry, if you're angry, if you're lonely, or if you're tired, you feel a range of emotions which is quite similar to what you would probably be feeling if you're watching a negative news, or if you get a negative news, right? So what do? Is that we first start to we need to recognize if we are feeling the emotion that we are feeling because we're hungry or we're angry or we're lonely or are we tired. If none of that, then we can go ahead. But if it is something within these four, then our first response is to what? Take care of that. Probably eat something or take some deep breaths if you're feeling angry, or seek out a friend if you're feeling lonely, or take a good rest if you're feeling sad. Sorry, if you're feeling tired. Yeah. The next one is also a recognizing technique, which is sad, that is stressed, anxious, or down. If you're feeling a negative emotion, we need to recognize what it is to be able to work on it. So, how do we do that? Is we recognize if this feeling is coming from being stressed, from being anxious, or are we just feeling down? Okay? Once we recognize that, we move on to the next aspect, which is the peace, emotional check in. That is, pause, exhale, acknowledge, center, and engage. Feels like a lot, but it's quite simple. So, as long as we recognize what we're feeling, we take a pause in whatever that we're doing, we take a deep breath and exhale. Then we acknowledge that, right, I am feeling this emotion right now. Then we try to bring ourselves and, center ourselves and engage with that feeling, which means what? We let that feeling be, let it come through, let it flow through you. So we take a pause, we exhale, we acknowledge our feeling, we center ourselves, and then we engage into it. I will also be taking you through a small guided imagery meditation, which is basically an enlarged way of practicing this peace emotional check in. So stay tuned till then. For now, let's go ahead. All right. So, with the kind of negative news or the kind of topics that we've talked about and now, let's balance the scales and talk about something positive as well. So, I'm giving the stage to you guys. What's a piece of good news? Now, this can be personal or it can be global that you would like to share. It can be as simple as someone holding the door for you today or making you tea. Anything that you'd like to share which was positive with you today or in the past week.
Whenever India won a medal or win at global platform.
Okay, that's a great news. Really, I like that. What about others? Anything that you'd like to share, which something positive that happened in your life in this week or today? The Ram Mandir one. Okay. Yes, if it makes you feel positive, then yes, it definitely is. Re-release of movies this entire year. I completely agree. Oh my god, that is very sweet. Varsha says, my mother-in-law is taking care of my 11-month-old baby so I can attend this webinar. That is very sweet and actually very, very positive. I'm really glad that you have a good mother-in-law. Really, really, that's great. Anybody else who would like to share anything? Just reading about this brought a smile to my face. And just a few months ago, I was frowning. So it's really great that you guys share a lot. All right. Thank you so much for all the people who have shared. Let's take a few minutes and watch a small video which talks about the kind of good news that we might have missed in 2024. Yes, exploring about my interests makes me happy. That's a great one. That's really good. It doesn't just makes you feel happy. It makes you aware as well. That's a great one. Really good job. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, let's watch this video and we can then talk about the news or how this video makes you feel after it has ended.
The world feels scary right now. The planet heats, the clock ticks, the red lines climb. Death stalks the fields of Ukraine and the streets of Gaza. Famine looms in Sudan. And in the Middle East, the drums of war sound louder by the day. Habitats shrink, democracy's flame sputters, authoritarianism and intolerance rear their ugly heads. Millions flee disaster and persecution. The debts mount, international cooperation falters. Everywhere we look, there are reports of decline. Are we headed for disaster? Well, your answer to that question probably depends on where you've been getting your news, because here are some other stories from the last 12 months, some other reports of decline that you may not have heard about. Last year, extreme poverty declined to its lowest level in human history, an estimated 8.4%. Deforestation across the entire Amazon basin declined by 55%, and violent crime in the United States declined to its lowest level since the 1960s. In the last 12 months, a record number of countries have eliminated a disease, including for the first time ever, hepatitis C by Egypt and black fever by Bangladesh. And global AIDS deaths have declined to their lowest level since the 1990s, down by more than two-thirds since their peak. When I was in high school, that was the world's deadliest infectious disease, and now we have the power to end it. So maybe you've been feeling despair over climate change or the fear of fascism rising like Dracula from the coffin, of resource overshoot and political decay. But last year, carbon emissions in advanced economies declined back to the same level as 50 years ago. Cancer death rates in America and Europe declined again. And air pollution is now falling in 21 of the world's 25 biggest cities. Alongside those declines, other things have been on the rise. There are 50 million more girls in school today than there were just under a decade ago. And last year, 418 million of the world's children got fed at school. That is almost 1 in 5. This year, it's going to be even more. Since we were last all gathered here, millions of people have gained access to water. Tens of millions of people have gained access to electricity. Estonia and Greece have legalized same-sex marriage. It looks like Thailand and Japan are going to be the next two on that list. And at least 10 countries in the last 12 months have passed laws expanding the rights of women, including France, which recently became the first country to enshrine reproductive rights into its constitution. In 2023, we installed so much wind and solar that it changed the trajectory of our climate future, with China's carbon emissions now predicted to start falling as early as this year. In 2024, we are going to install enough global solar manufacturing capacity to reach our net zero targets by the end of this decade. A car powered by electrons was the world's best-selling vehicle last year, and batteries are now the fastest-growing technology since human beings made aircraft in World War II. We have crossed the threshold. There is too much momentum now to stop the transition to clean energy from happening. I have two little girls, Lola and Cleo. Lola is 4 years old. Cleo turned 3 the other day. And the International Energy Agency says that based on current trends, by the time my girls are my age, the world's electricity and transportation systems are on track to be almost entirely fossil fuel free. We are not doomed. Did you know that 2023 was arguably the greatest year ever for conservation? We protected huge tracts of land in Alaska, the Amazon, Southern Africa, and the entire Tibetan Plateau, which is an area larger than all of Western Europe. We created new marine protected areas off the coasts of Mexico, Chile, Panama, Dominica, South Georgia, Spain, Ireland, the Congo, Australia, Papua New Guinea, New Caledonia. In the last 12 months, there have been hundreds of stories of cities being regreened, of farmland being rewilded, of rivers being cleaned up, islands being restored. And the populations of every single one of these species is now either recovering or on the rise. Look, I know that a lot of stuff is going wrong. You know that a lot of stuff is going wrong. This is not some weird attempt to cancel or balance out the bad news. But here's an idea. If we want more people to devote themselves to the task of making progress, then maybe we should be telling more people that it's possible to make progress. If you're halfway up the mountain, you don't just stare at the top and say, oh my gosh, it looks so steep. You look back and you remind yourselves how far we've already come. In the last 12 months, despite all of the challenges, we have climbed a little further. So don't bet against humanity. In Nevada, they're using geothermal techniques to tap into the clean energy of our planet. On the border of Belgium and France, they're using bacteria to break down plastic. In Shenzhen, they're delivering blood via drones. And in space, new satellites mean polluters no longer have anywhere to hide. We are launching 5,000-ton starships. We are making 7 billion kilometer round trips to collect stardust from asteroids. We can perform miracles, enabling paralyzed people to walk by reading their brainwaves and sending the signals to their spine. We've mapped a quarter of the entire ocean floor, and NVIDIA's new Blackwell chip has as many transistors in it as there are stars in the entire Milky Way. In the last year, we started using CRISPR, genetic editing, to treat diseases like beta thalassemia and sickle cell disease. And we created the largest ever atlas of human brain cells. We are using artificial intelligence to identify new drugs to combat antibiotic-resistant bacteria, something that kills over 1 million people every year. 2 years ago, I almost lost my life to a bacterial infection. I got lucky. In the future, many more people will be able to say the same. I mean, we just used artificial intelligence to decipher the contents, the charred remains of the 2,000-year-old Herculaneum scrolls. And I don't know, maybe this is all boring to some of you, but to me, it really is indistinguishable from magic. Our scientific instruments are sensitive enough now to see plants speaking to each other and to detect the gravitational waves from the collisions of supermassive black holes. All of a sudden, we know that we are humming in tune with the entire universe, that each of us contains the signature of everything that has ever been. Progress is possible. Not all declines spell destruction. Not all rising levels result in loss, and sometimes there really are new things under the sun. These are the stories of the brave and the brilliant, and they also deserve our attention.
All right. I hope that was audible to everyone and that you were able to hear it. Do you guys have anything that you would like to share? Thank you so much for your reaction. It means a lot. Well, I was not the one speaking, but it still means a lot because the world is ours. Okay, so let's move ahead and do something very small here, that is guided imagery meditation. So, when I was talking about emotional seconds, I mentioned this as well. It's a strong grounding technique which we can use anytime we're feeling overwhelmed, to just calm ourselves down and bring ourselves back to the present. And I really want all of you guys to do it with me here. I will take you through the steps one by one. So let's get comfortable. And it's just going to take a few minutes and then we'll end this webinar as well. It's one of the last things that we're doing. So let's, sit comfortably. Get, if you feel comfortable, then you can close your eyes as well. If not, then just listen to my voice and follow along. Okay. Let's start with getting comfortable. Settle down in your seats, let your body relax, your shoulders drop, and place your hands comfortably on your lap or by your sides. Now take a deep breath in through your nose and gently exhale through your mouth. Let's do that again. Inhale deeply and exhale slowly. With each breath, feel your body beginning to soften and relax. Your muscles have let go. Your eyes have become calm. There is no tension between your eyebrows. Your legs are completely calm and soft now. Okay. Now imagine yourself in a peaceful, safe place. This could be a quiet beach, a forest, or your favorite cozy spot at your home. Picture every detail of this place. The colors that you're able to see, the textures, the sounds that you're able to hear. Maybe you can hear the gentle rustle of leaves of a tree right beside you, or you can hear the sound of waves crashing on the beach, or you can hear the chirping of birds. Let this scene fill your mind. Now, as you take another deep breath, let's do that. Take a deep breath in. Feel yourself becoming connected to the ground beneath you. Feel the part where you're sitting, whether it's on a bed, whether it's on a chair, whether it's on the ground. Feel yourself becoming connected to that. Imagine some roots growing from your feet and grounding you like a strong, steady tree, like nothing can move you. not even the strongest of storms. Exhale. With each exhale, imagine releasing any tension or stress that you have in your mind. Let it flow through your body. Imagine it coming out like water trickling away. Keep inhaling and exhaling. Take a deep breath in, hold, and exhale. With each inhale, feel calm and steady energy filling you. Now, picture a soft golden light surrounding you, like a warm protective bubble. It's making you feel all cozy, it's making you feel very safe. It's the kind of bubble that nobody can break. The light which is coming from it feels very comforting. It is shielding you from any negativity or any stress. Now, with every breath in, this light grows brighter, and with every breath out, it pushes away anything weighing you down. Take a deep breath in. Imagine that light growing brighter and brighter. And as you exhale, let everything that makes you feel heavy out. This is your shield of peace. It is always with you. You can always return to it. You can always stay inside it. And it will always protect you. Let's take a deep breath in, hold, and exhale. Now, when you're ready, start to bring yourself back to awareness, to the present moment. Feel the surface beneath you again. Feel the weight of your body on that surface. Feel the rhythm of your breath. Is it fast? Is it slow? Now wiggle your fingers and your toes wherever they are. Move them with all your consciousness and slowly open your eyes when you feel ready. Now take a moment to notice how you feel, and once you're ready, I would love it if you guys could share anything. Once you guys are ready, thank you so much, Ritika. Feeling good, light, and happy. Thank you. Once we're ready to move on, you guys can make give me thumbs ups, and we'll go ahead. Yes, it's like relaxation therapy and makes you feel calm. Yes, feels relaxed and positive, Neha says. That's great. It's really good to hear that. All right, let's move ahead. I'm sharing some steps with you for this. You guys can read them out and keep them with you in future in case you ever need to feel like you want to do this again. So just let me know. Give it a read if you feel like. But let me know once you're done and we can go ahead. You can come back to this peaceful moment that we have created here anytime you need it. Just a few moments of grounding and visualizing can help you feel more in control no matter what's happening around you. As I said, that shield of peace is yours to have anytime, anywhere. Alright, let's quickly conclude our webinar and end this session. So, we talked about a lot of things. We recognized how media affects our mental health and our emotions. We talked about developing healthy boundaries for consuming our media. Then we incorporated some positive news to balance our emotional responses. And we also did a small grounding technique to manage our emotional overwhelm. All right. So thank you everyone for joining in. If there are any questions, you can stay back or you can ask them right now. And if you wish to have any kind of, if you wish you could take counseling, then you can always email at the email address given, or you can WhatsApp on the number below as well. And we're always there to help you. Thank you very much for being here today, thoughts and your energy. Remember, while we can't always control the news, we can always control how we respond to it. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your responses. It means a lot. Thank you, Gauri. If you guys have any questions, you can always ask, but if not, you can always drop out.